Hi, everyone, and welcome to Around the Campfire. I'm Jamie Thomley, Marketing Director at Northwoods, and your Around the Campfire host. I'm thrilled to have both Ed Kozlowski, our Digital Marketing Practice Lead, and Jim Brophy, our Group Director of Digital, with me today to share critical digital insights from manufacturers and what manufacturers need to focus on to achieve digital success in 2025. But before we dive in, we always begin each of our Around the Campfire episodes with a bit of personal trivia about our guests. So today, since Ed and Jim have both been guests before, I've already asked them both what their favorite chocolate is in their s'mores, which is Northwood's signature snack. I'll instead ask each of you if you have an expert or influencer in the digital marketing space that you most enjoy following. So I will start with Ed.
I have followed Rand Fishkin for quite a long time. So I'll go with him. He's, changed where he's specialized to some extent, very Moz with SEO and then changing that from SEO Moz to Moz and then to SparkToro. And I think he has a lot of good insights. I don't always agree with everything he says, but I think he's a good leader within the industry. They're a great one.
Awesome. Yeah, he's a really good one. I agree with you. Jim, how about you?
Well, Ed, you stole mine.
I figured.
I actually have a couple of folks that I follow, though. There have been several. Augie Ray at Gartner is one that I follow. He's an analyst who covers customer experience, branding, and marketing. I had the pleasure of working with Augie many, many years ago and have watched his career, and he's definitely a thought leader in the customer CX space. Also mention our own Fred Pike. He's kind of developed a global thought leadership position around all things GA4, analytics, tag manager, BigQuery. And so he's really his personal brand and following over the last 5 to 10 years. So I always see what Fred has, and most importantly, his network, because of his reach and his expanded influence in that space. A lot of people follow him and comment on the things that he brings to the table. So it's interesting to see that interplay. And as Ed said, Rand Fishkin, I've been following Rand for quite some time, and he does have some very interesting takes on search and AI, which I know we'll get to.
Awesome. Yeah, those are great, great thought leaders. So good advice. And to everyone who's watching, go out and look them up on LinkedIn, X, whatever your preferred social channel is, and follow them for great insights. All right, let's go ahead and dive into our topic at hand. And I will tee this up to Ed first, but both of you work with a lot of manufacturers. We have a lot of manufacturing clients at Northwoods, and digital marketing and manufacturing definitely comes with its own kind of unique set of challenges that can be a bit different from other industries. So what are some of those unique challenges, if you wouldn't mind sharing those? And Ed, again, I'll start with you.
Yeah, I think a unique challenge you get with manufacturing is, and this isn't true of everyone, but sometimes they're not focused on digital marketing, right? And obviously that's why they come to us. But because they're so far away from it and they have their other priorities, you don't always get as deep into the weeds as you want within the business side. So kind of pulling together the digital and their business side. It creates this challenge of, we get leads to your site and we want to make sure they're quality leads and they're what you want. And it gets a little more challenging with some manufacturers because they're not as focused on digital. And one of the things I always say when I have a client who has someone internally who doesn't need to be the digital expert of the world, but someone who is really handling that on a day-to-day and working closely with us, we tend to get better results because we can tweak what we're doing based on the information we're getting fed back on a consistent basis.
That's true. And I think, too, when you look at targeting, manufacturers have complex and very niche audiences. Manufacturers often target highly specialized audiences like engineers and procurement managers or industrial buyers. So they require in-depth technical information before making purchase decisions. Mm-hmm. So I think getting that content out there in a digestible manner is kind of a challenge. Also, I think, everybody's going to say generating high quality leads. So lead generation, and targeting the right decision makers is in a very specific industry can be costly and time consuming if they don't know what they're doing, kind of to Ed's point.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. So I guess kind of taking that and kind of shifting a little bit to the digital advertising space, what do you recommend manufacturing marketers specifically really focus on this year in order to be successful when it comes specifically to digital ads?
Yeah, as we hit this age of more and more AI, one of the things that's going to set you apart is obviously, are you using it effectively, but not to go down that rabbit hole at the moment. Your marketing, your creative, the things you put into AI, what you're giving your messaging to people. So putting a big focus back on, and not that it went away, but even more so put a focus on the messaging and making sure you're doing
Mm.
something like video. I think as we get deeper and deeper into marketing, you know, things like YouTube are becoming full on channels that are something people watch as TV, where it's a great place for manufacturers to get videos in front of people to either show what they're doing or set themselves apart from their competition. And that video content can be 10 times more effective than imagery content or just, static text, those things like that. So putting a focus more into the future and thinking, how do we get video in front of people, I think is a big thing. I know video can be, it's not as easy to produce, especially when you have a short-term campaign, but I think it's something highly effective that needs to become more and more normal. It is, but like we need to push that further, right?
Yeah, that
Yeah,
makes
again,
sense.
you stole mine, Ed. I was going to lead with the video and more interactive content, but another thing I think they can focus on is really, optimizing their product and service pages. Many of these product pages lack detailed descriptions or application examples and visuals, and buyers want to see like specs and CAD drawings and case studies before they, reach out to you. So I think, obviously create more detailed product pages with specs and FAQs, maybe comparison tables. If you can, and it's within budget, add interactive product configurators if you can, if you're that type of manufacturer. And of course, include, videos, anything you can do to enhance that customer journey in terms of understanding what you deliver. I think a lot of times, people recognize the brand, right? So, you have the same players in certain industries within manufacturing, but it's how do you tell that story and how do you do it effectively? Video is certainly, something you want to focus on, but really focusing on those product and services pages and optimize those to the full extent that you can within your capability and budget.
And I think to piggyback on that, Google did a recent update in December, a core algorithm update. And one of the things we're starting to see with our clients is blog content is starting to lose some of its touch. It's not ranking quite as well, where we're seeing D ranks there. Not necessarily a loss in traffic, though. We're seeing what's happening is those products, those service pages, Google's starting to go a little more direct, even more so than what they were, and those pages are becoming more valuable. It's not to say blogs aren't important still, but I think as we go into things and you look into the queries, if you're optimizing your product pages, I mean, that's ultimately where you want people to get, and that's what we want ranking. And we're seeing that more and more.
Yeah, and to that end, I mean, talk about, optimization. I think too, focusing on better mobile experiences and speed optimization. I think that's another thing that can happen. Manufacturers' websites are slower and not mobile friendly, which can frustrate users. I know that, some of the older manufacturers, there's still a desktop play, especially with engineers and specifiers and things like that. But really, buyers and engineers often do research products from mobile devices, like if they're on site or on premise or trying to come up with a fix for something, they may actually have their mobile or tablet with them. So optimizing mobile experience and also speed as well.
Yeah, excellent. Excellent advice. You alluded to this a little bit, Ed, early on with what marketers can do to help their digital agency partners ensure that their efforts are returning the best possible result, feeding success data back to the agency they work with in order to tweak and refine their advertising and other efforts. Is there anything else that manufacturing marketers can do to help agencies ensure the best possible results?
Yeah, too. I think a big part of that conversation is making sure we know your business goals, right? Not just your not just what, like, hey, more leads is good, right? We need to understand what you're trying to achieve, because, if you have 5 products and we see that, hey, product 1 and 2 get the most search volume and we can put more budget there, but really your company wants to sell product 5 because it has higher margin and you want to push that more, we need to be in tune with that, so we know there's good reason why we need to put extra budget over there. And that also just helped us get deeper in the data and build reports that kind of show, hey, lower conversions in some aspect can be good because maybe that product's worth so much money that it's worth paying for. So just, yeah, I think that's kind of being aligned on not just your digital goals, but your business goals. And we can realign our whole strategy based on what your business goals are and help align that.
Perfect. Jim, you kind of mentioned some website related improvements or opportunities that you see manufacturers being able to make. You mentioned product information and some other things. Is there anything else that website wise you see as opportunities for manufacturing marketers to do better to help improve their web presence?
4 words: stronger calls to action, which leads to lead capture. I mean, I think many manufacturers and their websites don't have clear calls to action beyond like the contact us page, right? Mm-hmm. They miss out on opportunities to collect leads from engineers, procurement managers, and decision makers. So, maybe add a request for quote form if that's something that you want to be able to do as a KPI and it kickstarts the sales process. This is kind of fading away a little bit, but still gated content does have a place. It's still a barrier, but if it's done in the proper way and you're funneling people down a page and you can compel them to, engage with additional content, that's going to help in a variety of ways. So the other thing maybe to look at too, I know a lot of people are looking at this with AI, are chatbots. And there are a lot of bad ones out there, but there are some good ones. And moderated chat is the best if you can afford that resource. But having a really strong AI chat or some kind of a chat bot, I think also helps because, since websites are always changing and people are looking for information, and if your UX isn't tight and really well thought out, search or chatbot is the default that people go to.
Yeah, that makes sense. And that kind of leads into the next question I had for you guys around AI, because that is such a hot topic, and use of chatbot certainly gets a lot of attention. Is there anything else in the AI space, and Ed, I'll tee this up for you to start, and Jim, jump in. Is there anything else related to the use of AI that manufacturing marketers should be considering?
Yeah, whether it's the manufacturers or your consultant should be using it to analyze your data and kind of get different insights than maybe you would. I think there's, AI shouldn't be doing the only analysis. The individual should as well, but then you should be using AI to kind of get a different perspective on things and look at things from maybe a bigger picture that you don't see. I think also taking advantage of how do you create content efficiently. I caution against fully using AI content, but if you should be using it to enhance what you're doing and gain some efficiency so you can do a bit more in pushing things out. So going back to optimizing those product pages, you should be using AI to help you optimize it and figure out what you're overlooking on that page. Or sometimes it's just a great brainstorm partner that lets you kind of see it from a different perspective and put new content that maybe you didn't think of, or just reword something in a way you just couldn't get right the first time. I think too, on the UX side, you can also use it for the analysis to help you figure out pain points on your site and kind of figure out, okay, based on how people are using this heat map, what are some things that should be changed? And AI can help you uncover those things.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, we talk about the zero positioning. Websites are as important as ever, but website owners may be able to finally take their foot off of hey, produce as much content as possible. I don't care what kind of gas, that's dominated digital marketing for the past 10 to 20 years. If the traffic down, revenue up trend continues, websites might return to a place of providing information about the products and services a brand offers, more than becoming content hubs for the purposes of simply drawing in visits from search and social. Instead, we might see that type of content move to, additional zero-click platforms like I think with YouTube and Reddit, TikTok, and Instagram. They've really embodied that trend in B2C. And we should let business websites focus on their original purpose, which is to help people who already know the brand form decisions about what and whether to buy from them. So the point there is that the AI right now and the machine learning, everything that's happening, you're getting those, zero results. But websites are still going to play a role if you optimize things properly at the product and service page level, as we've discussed. You don't have to put all this voluminous content out there. Just really look at your long tail keywords, look at what your people are searching for, and then follow suit with those optimized and detailed pages and interactivity that's going to engage people.
And I think to piggyback on that, if things were in a perfect world, right, you'd only have to get the content that was super relevant to what you were doing. And ultimately, we'd have a better experience on the internet instead of having loads of content pushed from marketers all over. They're just pushing and enhancing the content that is really relevant to their business, right? And then you're not, as an individual, going through Google and trying to go through all this information and get the right search query to get to what you want. It would be a quicker journey. Let's put it that way. Better user experience.
Yeah, and to sum it up, I mean, AI can boost efficiency and improve targeting and generate content, but manufacturers should never rely on it 100%, in terms of the content. So the key is combining AI's automation power with human expertise to maintain technical accuracy and strong customer relationships.
I see a webinar in our future that goes in depth into that topic. There's a lot there. Well, I'm going to switch gears a little bit to talk about the European Accessibility Act. And we know that, many marketers across all industries, not just manufacturing, are starting to turn their attention to it. It's referred to as the EAA commonly. And they're turning their attention to it right now because the penalty phase of that law actually takes effect in June. So, Jim, I'll ask you this question. What should manufacturers know about the EAA if they don't already? And what should they be doing right now to prepare for it effectively?
I think there are three things that manufacturers and all organizations really ought to be thinking about, because I think some folks say, well, we don't have a business headquartered in the EU, or we don't, physically have reps over there or whatever. And that doesn't necessarily matter. So consider this: manufacturers selling consumer-facing products in the EU, even if you're only headquartered here, need to be compliant. Anybody offering digital services like websites, e-commerce, mobile apps, software, right? And then businesses that export to the EU, even if they're based outside of Europe. So those are the three people or, entities that are kind of on the hook. And digital accessibility, again, websites, commerce, all of those types of things, mobile apps, have to meet what they call Web Content Accessibility Guidelines 2.1 level AA compliance. So what should you be doing? Well, excuse me, at the very least, you probably, if you haven't already, conduct an accessibility audit of your website, your online catalogs, your e-commerce platforms, all of that. There are many tools to be able to do that. I'm going to list three of them. So WebM Wave is for website audits, and you can Google that and find that. Google Lighthouse, under the developer tools in the Chrome browser, will also run accessibility reports. And it's called AXE. AXE is also an accessibility checker. And what these tools will do is they will give you findings and that need to be remediated, such as proper color contrast or screen reader capability, those types of things. So do an audit first, and then reach out to someone that you trust in terms of accessibility remediation to come up with a plan to remediate these issues. Another thing that they can do right away is make sure that you have an accessibility statement on your website, and particularly focused towards EAA. And you can Google accessibility statement generators that are out there, and they can give you kind of a head start as to what that language should be. My recommendation, though, at the end of the day is to check with your legal department to make sure that you have the right things stated. But at the very least, what you'll do with a statement is that you hopefully will deter trolls. If you're showing an effort, a good faith effort to have accessibility in mind and demonstrate that through a policy that's clearly articulated, that's kind of step one. In that statement, two things that I would make sure that you do. An email that people can reach out to say, hey, if you cannot for any reason consume our content, please contact us at accessibility@abc.com, and or a phone number where they can contact you directly. Showing this in terms of, being compliant is going to be very important, because despite all of our best efforts, at the end of the day, a lot of accessibility is around content. And if you're changing content, updating it, or have many content authors, somebody makes a mistake every once in a while. And so, and that's okay, but having that statement allows people to recover from that mistake and provide that content in an accessible format.
Yeah, that's amazingly good advice. I will also put in a shameless plug for Northwoods accessibility audit. So Jim mentioned a good first step is to do an audit. If you're looking for a agency partner to help you with that, Northwoods does offer accessibility audits and remediation services. So you can go to our website at nwsdigital.com and check out our accessibility offerings. So shameless plug done. Is there anything else that either of you would like to talk about that we haven't already discussed related to manufacturing, marketing, and digital marketing, and what manufacturers should keep in mind as they move through this new year?
Yeah, I think this has always been important, but is even more and more so, especially with AI. Really invest in a strong analytics strategy and make sure you have a plan for how you're gathering that data. We make sure all of our clients do. And you need to be recording these things so that you can obviously pull information from them. But as AI becomes more and more important, we can use that to kind of mine things out of that data that maybe you weren't looking at in the past and kind of bring to light. So I think having a strong analytical strategy, making sure that everything you're working in is pulling in information the same way, so that, LinkedIn conversions are pulled the same way that Google conversions are in GA4, so that that you're obviously they have different attribution models, but everything's coming from the same actions on your website and things like that. Because if you don't have the data, you're flying behind.
Yeah, and to
Very
that
true.
end, I think, using that data to understand buyer behavior. Certainly industrial buyer behavior is changing. So you need to align your digital marketing with how people buy. Like B2B buyers, like engineers and procurement teams, want self-service options. There's been some research lately, and Jamie, you've brought this to our attention. 72% of B2B buyers prefer researching online versus talking to sales reps. That's a huge shift. Trade shows are still important. The belly-to-belly conversations are still important, but it is really beginning to transform to an online experience. And 66% of B2B buyers expect digital self-service tools for pricing and specs and configurations. So we've talked about it before, add self-service RFQs if you want to get a quote, a lot of video, short form video, do a lot of explaining, and improve your technical content for early stage buyers, like spec sheets and testimonials and case studies.
Yeah.
Excellent. Excellent. Anything else that you guys would like to touch on?
No, I want to find out who your influencers are.
My influence, well, I have a couple, but Howie Chan is one of my favorites in the brand strategy space. I really enjoy him. He's got some interesting, really unique takes on things, but he also just has a lot of common sense thought leadership, which, sometimes you just need to get back to the basics. So
Yep.
I really like him a lot.
I think that's a great point. Getting back to the basics can be something that, I go through and read beginner's manuals, even though I've been in digital marketing for 13 years. There's things as you're working, you maybe kind of forget for a short period, and that can bring them back to light. Or you just remember, hey, we should kind of double check this, that we're doing all this right. So I think that's a great point.
That's so true. That's so true. It's easy to get caught up in complexities and forget about the tried and true. So yeah, for sure. Well, thank you both so much for sharing all of your expertise and your really great insights. I think you've done a nice job of setting manufacturing marketers up for success this year and beyond with all of this great insight and knowledge. And thanks to everyone for tuning in. If you would like to catch up on previous episodes of Around the Campfire, you can visit our podcast playlist on YouTube or visit our website at nwsdigital.com/Around the Campfire. So thank you again for tuning in, and we look forward to hosting you around the campfire again very soon. Take care.